show and prove that it has really lot to say and to give in the modern world, taking as an example the traditional dance. Next slide, please. So, we stay to that. Let's stick to that. Here you can read the UNESCO definition of tradition, saying that is a living body which follows a life circle, and therefore some elements are likely to disappear after having given birth to new forms of expression. And actually, this is the very basic idea of tradition. It's not something that we take and that we have to maintain and to transmit to next generations, trying to keep it as clean and unadulterated as possible. Tradition is really transformed, being really associated with the social fabric and in interaction with it. Tradition is not a well-kept chest that one could find in museums and open it just in certain cases of urgency. It is open to transformation and rehabilitation. It is in constant interaction with its carriers, which actually are all of us. Against the firm categorization, the modern anthropological and ethnological research do not will to submit traditional dance in a traditional category, or to subdivide it into rural or urban dances. It is just a traditional form or context of dance and of body expression, therefore. Besides, we have a lot in common because we are going a little bit also to touch the questions of authenticity and of how all these dance, which are questions we are frequently asked as ethnologists. Here you can see, for instance, both in this and in this slide and the one that is going to follow, that traditional phenomenon still happen. For instance, this is something like 5 or 6 years ago, I don't really remember, in Karpathos. It's a photo taken by me. I've been in a festivity over there, and they still use the same music instruments, and it happens like that, the dance. It's okay, it's an unicum, this region in Greece, where they also still wear their traditional attire. So, let's move to the next slide, please. We see the interrelation between dance, music, and what we tend to forget, also the wordings. Because we used to name dances, but we forget that actually we don't name the dance, but according to the song that was following, accompanying the dance. Therefore, it's a total social phenomenon. It's carrying the characteristics of a communication system. Through the traditional dance, in societies they wanted to express something with another code than the wording. It has the message was clear, and it was a receiver and a sender of the message. This it can very easily be decodified in who was at the head of the dance, why, who invited the others to come in the head of the dance. One should, even nowadays, wonder when we dance. And actually, this spontaneous expression, even today, happens in specific circumstances such as the cycle of life customs, marriage, birth, celebration, the cycle of the year, either local or national diffusion one, so spring festivals, carnival festivities, festivities of St. George's and Demetrius, marking the beginning and the end of the summer period, mainly for the transhumans, feast of the 15th August. Let's move to the next slide. please. It's not only a Greek phenomenon. Throughout the southeastern Europe, we see, until nowadays, the existence and persistence of cyclical dances. We've experienced that even yesterday. The power of the cyclical dance, Kolo dance in other countries of Europe, Kiklos in Greece, this still imprint the importance of the community, how to stay the one near the other, how to embody the natural, such as the age, or constructed hierarchies, according, for instance, to the sex, the well-being of every family, soil, or farm. Dance always functioned as an identity mark. Once the arrangements were a matter of oral, long-standing arrangements, people were brought together in relatively equalitarian terms in the dance circle. Besides, the possibilities of personal expression and improvisation were reserved mostly to pair dances, or what we call free dances, and to the head dancer. The rest of the circle meant to function as a team, as a whole. Questions of dating and authenticity goes most of the times together. Very often, from our experience in Greece, where with panels we are trying not to teach but to interact with other people in traditional dance. We are showing to them what we know, and we are trying to be in an open dialogue with them. When it happens in open air, we have foreign visitors, we have tourists asking with anxiety, is it a very old dance? Since when is this dance? When this dance was first danced? Hoping eventually to see, to hear an answer, bringing this actual dance very close to an ancient one. No such an answer can be clearly given. And this is maybe an answer also to Vangelis why the anthropologists don't really see the historical facts. It's not that we don't see, but dance is as vivid and it changes rapidly and constantly. So we can't say that, yes, this is dated from the ancient times in the Naxos, for instance. It brings things eventually as memories, but it is all the time transformed. And that's why we saw in Greece severe examples of severe efforts of restoration and revitalization, even of ancient rhythms, trying to pull them by the hair, as we say in Greece, and to bring them in the actual dance reality. The first recorded dance that we had in Greece by folklorists it dates from the last fourth of the 20th century. And then later on during the 20th century, the 19th century. In the 20th century, research really shifted into a more anthropological scope. We know that several of the dances we have today bear common characteristics with dances of the end of the Ottoman Empire, based more or less in the depictions and sketches of the voyagers, as well as their descriptions, and of the first photographic efforts. But we can't really say that this dates from that time or the other. Besides, until the Second World War, the society really bared characteristic pre-industrial. The community organization networks worked in a more or less a stable way, and we still had festivities functioning in a way that it was echoing the 19th century. The real time where we have really severe changes in the dance production happens in the 30s. just something like 4 or 5 years before the Second World War. Maybe we can move to the other slide. When, for the first time, the dictator Metaxas, trying to forge the idea of a unified Greece, brought for repeatedly for 3 years villagers to dance and to perform their music in Athens, and widespread later on, the second mostly year, throughout Greece. So now dance is really cut off its function in a normal festivity and becomes a performance. It's the first time, it was in 1936, that dance became a show. And now here I just tried to put a timeline of how it changed and shifted the whole mentality. In the 50s, after the Second World War and the severe civil war in Greece, we had a very big flux of urban migration in Greece, as well as immigration to abroad. So, all of a sudden, what we thought it was a rural fabric really becomes very, very fable. In the 60s, we start to have some first nostalgic sperms in the urban reality, so we have the first ethno-local associations. So even in the city they are trying, people is trying, organized in this ethno-local association, to reconstruct the memory of the rural environment where they came from, the rural context. And they, at the same time, they are trying to maintain their dances. And at the same time, we have the two main official associations, Dora Strap and Lykion των Ελληνίδων, organizing serious expeditions in the province in order to save what could be saved. In the 70s, really the rural is in the urban space. In the 80s, with the socialistic era in Greece, together with the entrance of Greece in the European community at that time, all that was named to be traditional becomes all of a sudden something that we have to be ashamed of and that we have to leave behind us because we have to get modernized. And it is only in the 90s where we have a serious back to the roots movement, not only in dance but also in music, and we are trying, it is also integrated to the international image of the I would say music and in general cultural industry. With this explosion of the ethnic music, it's the same thing more or less for the dance. But still the anthropologists ask themselves which roots and why to the roots. Because at the same time we can understand that when you ask for going back to the roots, it's something that is iced in time. It is not evaluating in the time. So the question goes in pair with the quite justified misunderstandings posed by the political prejudice that folk or traditional music can be instrumentalized as a propaganda means of nationalistic thinking and acting people. When in Athens we ask informants to say to us, why do you dance? Some of them, in a general way of speaking, they say that, of course, in Greece we're quite conservative, that's why we're dancing. And actually, this was the argument for the dance to become severely criticized and to be left apart. And the whole thing started, next slide please, with such aesthetic misappropriation with folkloristic essence. Next, please. During the dictatorship of 67 to 74, where we got the dictator really, apart from the aesthetic crimes that he committed, he tried to prove that Greece is synonym of this kitsch aesthetic of the guards of the presidential guard dancing this Tsamiko dance. At the same time, it was this period that dances in northern Greece were really banned because they were danced by populations not integrally, meaning linguistically and culturally integrated to the Greek state, mainly bilingual populations, and this provoked a severe prejudice, meaning that what is traditional dance is really something conservative, not to say nationalistic. So a lot of, let's say, open-minded culturally and quite advanced politically people left this part of the, let's say, aesthetic tradition apart from the scope of research, apart from the scope of their discourse. And it's only now that we see things shifting and changing a little bit. Now, in Greece, we dance without complexes. It's only the last, maybe, decade, but we witness it more heavily, more seriously. The last 5 years, we witnessed an explosion of young people who have nothing to do with born nationalistic thinking, conservative people, and that are turning once more towards what is the community and the spontaneous expression of traditional dance. And it's very interesting because they are trying to discover once again music that was really hidden, songs that were really forbidden in dialects, dances that were trans-named. Their names were shifted into Greek language. Yet, a lot of things have happened meanwhile. Next slide, please. And one of the first things is that the way of learning dance changed through years. Beforehand, when you were in a village, an informant, an old person dancing, should say to you that, oh, I found it like that, it's my granny that was dancing like that, I don't know, I found it like that. Nowadays, you find people saying, it is like that, because the teacher of the association or of the school club told us. And the 90s really brought an explosion of school dances. In every single village we have a school dance, a dance school. And it's really the headmaster of the school who became the authority to say how it is danced. So, even in young ages like that, kids are not integrated into the dancing experience slightly, smoothly, and by following the circle as it was all beforehand. Now they are instructed to do it by someone. If this someone gives some more information in order to build a broader idea of the dance experience, okay, most of them are really treating dance as only step counting activity. Next slide, please. And this is I've tried really to, it was a hard choice because I find a lot of posters for seminars, school dances, dance schools, let's move on. Yes, and here are some of the seminars. Into the next one, please. If you ask all those people why you attend this seminar, the typical answer is because I want to learn the dances from each region. They never ask themselves if there is a need of organizing something like an excursion going to the region, seeing even how the geography and the geomorphology of the villages are, because it is all inscribed in the dance. Nevertheless, they are trying and they are really attending with ferocity, I would say. You have to enroll even 2 months before in such seminars. They're very, very popular. Next slide, please. And of course, what brought this kind of popularity now is the fact that we have a lot and quite a lot of performances, and some of them are of quite good, let's say, quality, even if we speak about decontextualized procedure. So, this dance is not in a festivity in the islands of the Decanese. It is performed in a theatre scene with special lights, with people getting dressed behind, trying to get into a row, but still those kind of performances can fill amphitheaters of some thousand seats. And I have some just for the colorful effect, several slides to show to you from. So this is a typical costumes from Peloponnese, from the south of Peloponnese, from one special region. Let's move to the other one. This is all fresh. It was the 21st of September in the big theatre of Iroglio underneath Acropolis. Here this comes from the region of Epirus. This comes from the islands. This is also, through dance, they are trying always to recreate the relations with what we call in Greece the lost homelands. For instance, this is a typical dance from brought in Greece from refugees from Anatolia after the exchange of populations in 1922. And the next one, please. And from central Greece. But you could say to me, okay, you showed us enough of folkloristic and revitalized things, what's happening actually in Greece. Well, actually in Greece, a lot of, especially in either in the islands, as is here an example, or in here, and in hinterland, we have several festivities. Some of them more popular, so gathering people from other parts of Greece, other ones just with the native population, where dance remains the core event, remains the very, very culminating point of the festivity, of the panegyri. So we can move on. This another carnival. They are not just disguised like that and put on display. The whole village for more than a month is trying to organize itself, giving certain specific roles to people, and it is a festivity for the winter carnival, happening just after the New Year's Day. In the same region, and the other one really gives us that, shows that things have moved also in the urban fabric. So every one such example is the festivity of fires in the by the end of June, where people really used to celebrate like that the change of the sun route towards summer. The interesting thing is that slightly this certain custom took also a political meaning. So now you can see this custom, during this custom, political reclaims, especially after the crisis. This year, in order to keep part of the beach open, it was organized this festivity instead of something like a political gathering. It was this collective festivity, having as first thing to reclaim open beach to everyone. Next one, please. And this actually also is interrelated with the use of public space, which is something that in Greece, in the era of crisis, is really under severe criticism, and people is really trying to appropriate the public space despite the authorities' different ideas. Next one, please. And we see, even in the heart of Exarchia, which is kind of the rebellion neighborhood in Athens, organizing traditional gledia in an occupied, squatted space, which was supposed to become a parking. So I think that nowadays the political demand in the era, and this is actually the statement, having passed all those, I thought that it was interesting to see all the uses, the propaganda uses of traditional dance, the folklorization and the contextualization and the fragmentation of traditional dance. Nowadays we see that tradition is not exactly reinvented, but we are trying to discover again, because it was always there, alternative ways of sociability that are inside this traditional way. So, collective cuisines, solidarity movements, ecological ideas such as the recycling or the rationalization of development, exchange economical system other than the monetary ones, that of small scale, that will have something like more than 20 or 30 efforts in Athens, maybe in Greece, maybe more, are all recalling community organization systems, enrooted in what we used to say traditional society. And now, the reality, reverse the argument that dances, traditional dances were really popular to the conservative part of society. Traditional becomes updated as alternative, solidarist, perfectly expressing the crisis of modernity. Something like post or counter-modernity system. So, we witness the tradition from the back door, and we see that it's the perfect way, maybe the basis through which we can build communication between more or less neighboring people, more or less neighboring cultures. And I think that the concept that really follows will prove that fact of exchanges from west to east this time. Finish. Okay, thank you. Any questions or anything or ideas to add are more than welcomed.